Good morning, Boker Tov. Today is Friday, January 29th, Erev Shabbat, Parshat Beshalach. I go back in time 35 years ago, approximately 35 years ago, 36, 7 years ago, when I spent my year of study in Israel. One of the powerful experiences we had was a decision that the yeshiva made to allow us to travel down from where we were in Alon Shvut to the city of Yamit, which was a beautiful city in the Sinai Desert along the Mediterranean. That was slated to be handed over to the Egyptians in the peace agreement that we had made with them. So we went to spend a Shabbos there and to understand exactly what it was that we were giving to the Egyptians. That was the goal. So we got down there, and before we went to Yamit, we decided to take a journey further south into areas that were other biblical names that we might meet as we move later on in the Torah portion. Really very southernmost parts of Israel, the northernmost parts of the Sinai experience that is described. And in one of those locations, we parked the bus, we went out to look at what we were looking at, and then we got back onto the bus, and the bus tried to depart, and it couldn't. It was Friday afternoon at this point. It couldn't move. The wheels of the bus were just spinning because beneath the tires, beneath the wheels, we realized we were standing on basically, we thought it was road and sand, but there was water beneath it. So you were kind of in this slushy, sandy, slushy situation, and the bus couldn't move. So we got out of the bus and we tried to push the bus. Eventually, local Arab population were gathering around us. We were getting a little more nervous about that. They sold us sandbags that we could use to try to get some traction. We were able to push the bus, and then it got stuck in the front. It was actually a frightening situation where we knew that it was really not safe to remain where we were. And we hopped onto the bus late Shabbos afternoon and headed as quickly as we could towards Yamit. Then an interesting halachic conundrum arose. One had to do with driving in safety, and the conclusion was we would not be safe until we actually got into the gates of Yamit ourselves, and so therefore the driving on Shabbat was permitted. The bus driver was a Jewish guy. We all emptied out our pockets from our muktzah and put it all into one big bag with our wallets and things like that. But then the question arose about Tchum Shabbat. Tchum Shabbat. The verse, Tchum Shabbat is a rabbinic teaching which has its basis in this week's Torah portion, where the instructions are given. Moshe says, "Re'u ki Hashem natan lachem Shabbat." Look, that God has given you the Sabbath. Al kain hu noten lachem v'yom hashishi lechem umayim. That's why He gave you two portions of this bread stuff, the man on Friday. Shivu ish tachtav. Everyone should stay in place. Al yetzei ish mimakomo b'yom hashvi'i. No one should leave his location on the seventh day. The rabbis say we derive from this the rule of Tchum Shabbat, the boundary of Shabbat, that you're not permitted to travel outside of the habitated area on Shabbos more than the distance, which is approximately 2,000 amot, which is around 3,000 feet, which means a little bit more than a half a mile. Now, it happens that such things aren't that commonplace for us to travel outside of our Tchum, because we're always, for the most part, we're always finding ourselves in a habitated place. There's always something. We could walk from here, as somebody interestingly noted, from Boston to Washington. You pretty much will always be in a habitated place if you go down Route 1. And so you can make that whole journey. But if there isn't a place of habitation at all, there are all these rabbinic moves in which a person might set up a midpoint, which, leaving something there that could be considered to be a habitation that would allow them to double the distance and the like. But short of that, you weren't permitted to travel beyond that on Shabbos. Short of that, you weren't permitted to travel beyond that on Shabbos. And so here we were on our way to Yamit, and they said, "Well, we don't have Tchum. Tchum is defined by where you are when the sun sets, and then you figure out the distance from there. So we can keep on traveling until it's safe. And the truth was that, and this was the argument, we are safe by the time we reach the outskirts of Yamit, and then we would be required to stop driving for, because we have no permissibility for the malacha of driving, and we would be stuck because once you're outside of Techum Shabbat, you may not move an inch. We've used up our Techum, was the argument. And so there was a whole interesting halachic analysis which concluded that, well, if you could have people would serve to create a machitza around you, and then they could sort of move you in. And so we were going to plan to have and call ahead before it was Shabbos to have the children of Yamit to meet us at our bus outside of the gates of Yamit, form a big circle around us, and we would then sort of be able to hedge our way into Yamit on Shabbos. Well, what did we do? The bus driver couldn't have cared less. He wasn't doing that. And as we got close to Yamit, he just drove right in, and we didn't have to worry about it. And once we were in Yamit, Yamit was a fenced-in city, and we could move about Yamit, but we couldn't make our way to the beach, for example, on Shabbat and see the beautiful Mediterranean because we were beyond the fenced-in area. We had no tchum at all. We had no movement allowed to us. What is this teaching about tchum Shabbat? I would suggest the following: that many of the rules of Shabbat revolve around our restricting ourselves from altering the natural world. That's most of the malachot are about not altering the natural world at all. But the rule of Tchum Shabbat was really about seeking and broadening our terrain and our purview into the big wide world that's out there. And we're told that, you know what, that's for the other 6 days of the week. Shabbat is a time when you shouldn't be looking far beyond. You should be looking right at home, right in your local community, right in your local synagogue life, right in your home itself. We've certainly been able to do this more over these past many months when we're not going very far anyway. But the rule of Tchum Shabbat should help us refocus as best we can on the gifts that we have of what is here, what is present right where we are, and to work to make it as best as it can ever be. Use this time still that we are more confined than we would have wanted to be, to help create that powerful place known as home, known as your makom, known as this locale. And may you have a Shabbat Shalom.